A warm welcome to the show. Today we're going to take a plunge into the worlds that thrive outside the mainstream. You could say that culture is community, and getting your daily coffee can be a way to support local game changers, people who can turn a business into a mission to create connection and belonging, even when they themselves are far away from home. That's the story of Jochen and Kedi, whose journey we explore today. We'll also visit a place helping people with disabilities become part of the fabric of a modern city. All of this right here in Warsaw.
A cup of coffee, tasty treats, and a conversation. That's the basics. But some places offer more. A glimpse into a culture beyond the mainstream and a community. For example, Tome, a cozy cafe which employs people with disabilities, providing a safe environment for them to work and flourish.
Super.
It's great. I love coming here and working.
Tome is run by a foundation aiming to integrate people with intellectual handicaps into the job market.
We show people with disabilities they can have a normal life. We employ them, and thanks to that they gain agency over their own lives. Nothing is worse than feeling like you can't make it on your own.
On the other side of town, Cacao, adorned with portraits of Belarusian oppositionists and books in Belarusian, famous for its Bedouin-style coffee. The owner, Jochen Skrabutan, had to flee Belarus after he signed a letter demanding the freeing of political prisoners, post-mass protests of 2020.
I'd lived in Poland 3 times before to study, but every time I graduated, I returned home. The plan was to study here, but then go back and do something. I've always dreamt of leading reforms, working in a ministry. But this was impossible in Belarus. I was treated as a foreign agent. Because why would someone return from the West? Very suspicious.
Soon, Cacao will open a second, much bigger location. Jochen will then be able to host events for Warsaw's Belarusian diaspora, which became quite numerous after 2020. Back to the city center, and it's time for lunch. Kobiety Wędrowne, which is Polish for wandering women, is a tiny diner run by Hedi Alieva, who was forced to leave her beloved Chechnya after her husband was kidnapped and killed by Russian soldiers.
I wanted to find a place for myself. I don't think I'm very stupid, but I couldn't find my place here in Poland, and I was talking to my friend once. I asked him, who could I be? And he said, a bridge, and I chose that as my mission.
Hedi runs a foundation seeking to integrate refugees into the fabric of Polish society, especially women.
I told my mom I work in women's rights now. She was so inspired by the Polish women, what they fought for. It was Polish women who gave me the strength to say, I'll go with you. And you know what my mom said? She said, good, avenge all of us.
Hedi suffers PTSD because of the war, but she still finds the joy to dance. What unique cafes or diners can you find in your neighborhood? Go and explore, because when you share a meal or a drink with people completely different than you might just realize how similar they actually are.
Now it's time to address the shroom in the room and talk about the magic mushrooms in Poland's counterculture. From the bold experiments of famous artists such as Stanisław Witkacy-Witkiewicz at the turn of the century to modern-day raves, psychedelics are making waves. Here's a report by Maciej Jastrzębski. Just remember that we do not endorse the consumption of mind-altering substances.
Poland's legendary early 20th century writer, artist and psychonaut Stanisław Witkacy-Witkiewicz was notorious for painting under the influence of psychedelics. His likely favorite? The Mexican peyote cactus. Today, according to an ongoing online study entitled Psychedelics in Poland, published by the Institute of Psychiatry and Neurology at the Polish Academy of Sciences, magic mushrooms are the most popular psychedelics among Poles. That must have something to do with Poland's unofficial national sport, mushroom hunting.
I'm on a lot of mushroom picking groups, and I love picking mushrooms like, edible ones, and I hate those Amanita crowd who are saying, let's get back to our folk roots. I don't like the idea of losing your consciousness. I like my consciousness as it is.
Why do Poles take other, less hazardous hallucinogenics?
Psychedelics are now becoming more mainstream.
A sign of that shift toward the mainstream is Poland's first documentary on the medical use of psychedelics, which premiered just this November. Also this year, sociologist Maciej Lorenz published his latest book on shrooms, titled Will Psychedelics Save Poland? But could it be that the taming of the shroom is following a trend from abroad?
A lot of these ideas are coming from, Silicon Valley, new technology companies, startups from the United States, which are looking at psychedelic, a kind of technology that you can use to enhance or boost your creativity, your productivity. In Poland, the kind of medicalized discourse is much more prominent.
And on the streets of Warsaw, everyone seems to know someone who ingests psychoactive mushrooms.
I have friends that used to using drugs, so I would say yes, it's easy to take psychedelic in Poland.
But bolder testimonies would come up only when we made it clear that the interviewees would remain anonymous.
I think they're over-stigmatized. I'd say that they should be allowed both for therapy, also for recreational purposes. From certain people, I know that it saved them from depression.
It should be legal, so people take stuff that are checked for their healthy impact.
However, psychedelics in Poland are burdened with caveats.
In Poland, giving or having psychedelic substances is illegal, even for personal use. Consumption itself is formally illegal.
And for the record, shrooms and other psychedelics may cause a roller coaster of anxiety, disturbing thoughts, depersonalization, and more. So, no need to copy Witkacy. Say no to shrooms.
Behind the Iron Curtain, individual expression wasn't just discouraged. It could land you in prison. Until 1989, being part of a counterculture was an act of true defiance. Let's look at how the iconic youth movements of the 20th century helped shape Poland's culture of resistance.
Do you know of any subcultures from the times of your parents or grandparents?
Not really, I'm sorry, not really.
I don't think that they were any part of any subcultures, actually.
Well, you'd be surprised. Iconic Western subcultures like punks and hippies spilled behind the Iron Curtain. And even though in communist Poland an expression of individuality could get you arrested, young people always found a way. The 50s were all about that jazz. At the height of the Stalinist regime, listening to forbidden American music in underground cafes was excitingly rebellious. Jazz lovers were called bikiniarze. To plunge into the atmosphere of the era, we recommend Andrzej Wajda's film, Innocent Sorcerers.
Our generation is absolutely unique.
I don't care.
And what do you care about?
Comfy shoes, good cigarettes, good socks.
Their style had to adapt to post-war scarcity. Grandma's tablecloths became fashionable skirts. Army surplus coats were brought to life with affordable accessories. The gaudier, the better, to contrast Warsaw's gloomy reality. Perhaps the most iconic youth movement of the 60s, the hippies. Peace, love, freedom, and rock music also made it into Poland. Their style was inspired by the hippies from the West, but with elements drawn from local ethnic dress, for example, of the Polish Highlanders. But perhaps the most unique element of the Polish hippie movement was that it was led by a priest. Father Andrzej Szpak invited hippies to join him on pilgrimages, hoping Catholic spirituality could draw them away from drugs. The initiative proved so popular, the hippie pilgrimages survived well into the 21st century.
This pilgrimage is for all young people. For 25 years we've never excluded anyone.
The first punk bands appeared in Poland in the 70s. But it was the imposition of martial law in 1981 that fueled the emergence of punk as a subculture. Worn leather jackets and mohawk hairstyles became an everyday tool of rebellion against the communist regime. Punks from across the country religiously attended the Jarocin festival, which served as a breath of fresh air amid political repression and economic woes. Although Jarocin festival was allowed, the secret police still tried to keep an eye on things.
We played concerts at like 4 or 3 a.m. so that the secret police would be, well, they were either drunk or asleep. And you know, the guys would make sure that they never got thirsty.
After 1989, it became much easier to rebel. Or maybe harder, now that just buying a Western record doesn't cut it anymore. But one thing remains constant. Young people need to let their hair down.
And now it's time for Culture Beats. Almost 200 women artists from the 16th century to the present gather under one roof at Warsaw's Museum of Modern Art for an exhibition titled The Woman Question. It opens with the brilliance of Artemisia Gentileschi, a painter who more than holds her own beside Caravaggio. And you can also find the modern voices such as Yoko Ono and Tracy Emin. It's the season's exhibition to catch before anything else, and Carolina Shapland explains why.
In 1405, the French court writer Christine de Pizan posed a question: to what extent women can express themselves in a society that's ruled by men? And here, in 2025, in Warsaw, in the Museum of Modern Art, the latest exhibition sets out to explore this very question. This really is the must-see show of the season. And what makes it stand out in Warsaw's already rich cultural landscape?
This exhibition brings together 5 centuries of women artists who, about 199 objects spanning almost every continent and every period. It's really not the first ever all-women exhibition in Poland. You actually have a very rich tradition of those exhibitions, but it's the first one to bring together, I think, such an international and trans-historical exhibition.
There is a palpable female energy in these rooms, so much so that it's drawn the British author Katie Hessel to launch her new book here at the museum.
I'm launching my book here tonight at the Modern Art Museum in Warsaw because of Alison Gingeras' exhibition, The Woman Question, which really is one of the most trailblazing exhibitions I have ever seen in my life. It brings together women artists from the last 500 years, and my work as an art historian focusing on women artists, to be able to see these works in person is revolutionary. How many times do we go to museums and it's all men?
The Woman Question highlights how the category of women artist has broadened in recent years to include trans women, non-binary and gender non-conforming voices. It also reveals the continuous, often overlooked presence of female creators from the 16th century right through today and the richness they bring to our culture. And if you left wanting even more feminist art, this museum has another gem for you, the City of Women exhibition. For TVP World, I'm Carolina Shapland.
Polish National Opera is celebrating a double anniversary, the 200th anniversary of its founding and the 60th anniversary of its post-Second World War reconstruction. Work on this impressive building in the heart of Warsaw began in 1825, but 2 centuries of tumultuous history left their mark on the opera. During the war and the siege of Warsaw, it was almost completely destroyed. After its reconstruction, it was reopened to the public in 1965. And with this, we conclude Pulse of Culture. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for more.